Ever drive past that giant empty lot in your neighborhood and wonder who actually owns that? Or maybe you're just a little curious about what your neighbor really paid for their house. Well, welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into a comprehensive guide on how to navigate public real estate data. Specifically, we're going to show you exactly how to search Seminole County property records online. And the best part is, it is completely free. Let's get right into it.
$60 billion. That is the staggering total taxable value spread out across over 181,000 real property parcels in Seminole County, Florida alone. Just think about that for a second. Behind every single dollar of that $60 billion, there's a mountain of public data just waiting to be accessed. Who owns the property? What are the exact boundaries? How much did it sell for? This number just proves how much incredibly valuable, free data is literally sitting right at your fingertips, provided you know exactly where to look.
Here is our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll be covering what property records are, finding the right jurisdiction, accessing online search tools, executing a practice search, real-world practical applications, and finally, common mistakes and disclaimers.
Section 1. What are property records? Basically, property records are the official municipal documents that tell the complete story of a piece of real estate. Think of them as the ultimate paper trail. They detail the current and past ownership, tax assessments, historical valuations, and the actual physical spatial boundaries of a lot. They also include legal conveyances, which is just a fancy way of saying the actual deeds and mortgages. If you're a prospective buyer, these records are absolutely crucial for uncovering a property's history before you make an offer. And for researchers and investors, this is your primary source of truth to analyze market trends and verify who actually holds the title to a piece of land.
Moving on to Section 2. Finding the right jurisdiction.
Now, before we start searching, there's a massive geographical trap that catches a lot of people off guard. There are actually two Seminole counties. There's Seminole County, Florida, which is highly urbanized and directly manages its massive database of over 181,000 parcels through its own specific county portals. But then there's Seminole County, Oklahoma, which is a more rural region that utilizes third-party platforms like Data Crosspoint and Regrid for their assessor data. Because they operate under entirely separate state constitutions and municipal frameworks, you have to segment your search pathways right out of the gate. For our walkthrough today, we're going to be focusing strictly on the Florida jurisdiction.
Another absolutely crucial point is understanding how Florida divides its property data. You aren't just going to one magic website for everything. The property appraiser is responsible for the valuations, the structural details of a building, tracking ownership for tax purposes, and GIS spatial mapping. On the flip side, the clerk of the circuit court is responsible for the actual legal chain of title. They are the ones who officially record the deeds and mortgages. So rule of thumb, if you want square footage and tax value, you go to the appraiser. If you want the legal deed document itself, you go to the clerk.
All right, Section 3. Accessing online search tools.
There are 4 primary ways to access the appraiser's data. If you just have an address on hand, the quick search is going to be your best friend for a really broad overview. But if you're doing serious research, you want the real property search. This allows for multi-field entries to pull up comprehensive valuation tables and building specs. The sales search is incredible for investors looking for comparable sales data, letting you filter by date or price range. And finally, the map search uses an interactive GIS map to show you lot shapes, neighboring properties, and exact spatial dimensions. As you can see, each tool serves a very unique research purpose.
Section 4. Executing a practice search. Let's actually walk through this together. Step 1, you'll navigate to the official property appraiser's portal. Step 2, let's pretend we're looking up a hypothetical house on Main Street. We just input that address into the real property search tool. Step 3, the system generates a massive page of data. Literally right there on your screen, you can see the assessed value, the exact square footage, how many bedrooms and bathrooms the county officially thinks it has, and all the historical sales data. It's an incredibly smooth process to pull up comprehensive structural details.
But remember our split jurisdiction. What if we want to see the actual physical deed for that Main Street house? Well, we have to leave the appraiser site and head over to the clerk of court. Step 1, visit their specific portal, which is called Due Process. Step 2, we take the property owner's name we just found on the appraiser site and plug it in here to search for legal conveyances. And Step 3, amazingly, you can view, print, or even download PDF copies of these official recorded deeds and mortgages completely for free. No paywalls, no subscriptions.
Section 5. Real-world practical applications.
So why does all this actually matter in the real world? Well, if you're an investor, you'd use a sales search to evaluate property investment decisions by pulling comparable sales in the area.
If you're a home buyer, you absolutely need to verify if a property holds a homestead exemption because that heavily impacts your future tax bill. You can also use the GIS map to analyze spatial dimensions and zoning before you go in and, say, build a new fence. You can review historical tax delinquency lists for auction opportunities. Or, honestly, you can simply conduct basic background checks to see who actually owns the empty lot next door to your house.
Which brings us to Section 6, Common Mistakes and Disclaimers. Listen closely to these pro tips because they will save you hours of absolute frustration with these databases. First, when searching by an owner's name, always enter the last name first. Second, and this is a huge one, never use punctuation. No commas, no hyphens, no periods. If you do, the database will just error out. If you have an incomplete name, utilize wildcard searches. Third, as we discussed earlier, do not waste your time searching for deeds or mortgages on the appraiser's site. You have to go to the clerk. And finally, a very common mistake, people look for official land surveys on these portals. Surveys are private documents, so they aren't available on either the appraiser or clerk websites. You'd have to contact a title company for those.
As we start to wrap up, it's vital to read this official disclaimer directly from the clerk of court regarding tax deed sales. Quote, all properties sold at a tax deed sale qualify under buyer beware. The purchase of a tax deed does not warrant or guarantee clear and marketable title. End quote. Basically, if you are using this data to buy properties at auction, you are taking on risk, and you need to know exactly what you're doing.
Furthermore, it's important to remember that while this explainer empowers you to find the data, municipal websites update daily. The information we've discussed is accurate to the best of our knowledge based on these portals, but it is never guaranteed for legal purposes. You should always consult with local legal experts, title examiners, or legal advisors for complex inquiries or before making any serious real estate investment decisions.
And that brings us to the end of our structured guide. With a $60 billion database of property history, structural specs, and legal deeds now literally at your fingertips, what secrets will you uncover in your very first search? I highly encourage you to open up a new tab, head over to the appraiser's site, and try a practice run for yourself. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and happy searching!